Hello, everyone. I figured while I'm on the topic of talking about weapon unlock, drama, and gossip, I may as well talk about the Market Gardener, because it is a very contentious unlock, and actually a lot of discussions of many weapons and banning them. The Market Gardener just gets brought up kind of out of nowhere. So yeah, I want to kind of talk about it and talk about how metagames evolve in general, because I think the Market Gardener is a good illustrative example. Because, to be honest, a lot of the calls, at least in North America, to ban it were kind of came and went. They were much more popular like around a year ago, maybe a year and a half, roughly, and have since simmered down. People seem to be kind of fine with it for now, but it still comes up a lot in discussion. So yeah, we can kind of structure this a similar way as the lock and load. Just kind of talk about its strengths and weaknesses. And for starters, the weakness of the Market Gardener is it kind of doesn't have one, right? The soldier melees, the stock melee for soldier is functionally worthless. It doesn't really do anything for you. So any downsides associated with the Market Gardener is strictly going to be in opportunity cost in what you would be using otherwise. And for most people, that is going to be the escape plan, right? Now, to be clear, the escape plan is a really good melee. It lets you sometimes get out of situations that you otherwise wouldn't, kind of like its namesake. But a lot of the time it just helps you traverse to different health packs faster, and you just get to be more effective and in the fight quicker as a result, and that's a really good thing. So yeah, basically what you're giving up by equipping the Market Gardener is you're equipping, or you're just unequipping the escape plan, right? You're gonna have a tougher time getting to a health pack if you're really weak and can't really jump, and as a result, it's just you're going to be less effective in those situations. So yeah, that's the primary downside. But what is the major upside? Now, of course, it's pretty self-explanatory. Everyone, at least all casual players, enjoy or at least are enamored by the Market Gardener because it is a very interesting weapon, right? While you're rocket jumping, you hit a guaranteed crit, which is a lot of damage. And especially in sixes where, you know, the healthiest class you're going to see is a full buff soldier. You're not going to really be spooning full buff soldiers. But that's enough to be one-shotting any scout, any medic, pretty much most demos that aren't buffed, and a lot of the time soldiers as well, because most of the time soldiers won't be buffed and won't be full HP because they've been jumping around. So you're going to be able to one-shot most people most of the time, and that is a big deal. So what are the situations in which you'd see the Market Gardener used? One of the most common, actually, or at least commonly brought up or thought about, is during sacks. And during a sack, the soldier of course wants to bomb in and get a force or drop on the enemy medic, and sometimes a soldier will just sack in with the Market Gardener, fly into the medic's face, and try and hit them with it. Personally, I don't think this is where the weapon really gets abused, right? Because first and foremost, if a soldier is able to just cleanly bomb like that, a lot of the time that's a failure of the defending team. That's a failure of their scouts. That's just kind of a failure of things in general. There are, of course, some like crazy setups where just the soldier just hard diffs with their bomb and is able to like hit some crazy ramp slide, whatever, just fly directly into the medic with the spoon. And in those times, yeah, it is kind of dumb how the medic just gets, they have to pick whether they want to risk the drop or not. But for most sacks, and I mean most, the soldier is actually better off just using their rockets. They're generally going to be more effective. So for times like that, it's not really that big of a deal. However, that's not the only case that you see the Market Gardener in. And I think where it's most abused is in not a more defensive play, I suppose, or rather killing distracted players. So soldiers are really good at bombing players that are distracted or otherwise occupied or just in too deep, things like that. And their main goal, of course, is just to go clean up that kill and help their team, right? Being able to kill that player with a Market Garden is much better, because not only are you doing way more damage than a rocket would, but you're also saving your rockets, so you can potentially jump away. You can potentially shoot other players with those rockets that would have killed or just been targeting the first, stuff like that. So that's a big deal, and just kind of dying randomly because the soldier that was bombing you that you could potentially surf their rocket unintentionally or not, or just potentially, you know, survive that interaction, or at least have counterplay in the interaction, just kind of got the one hit kill on you because you were distracted, right? And that can be a big deal. And of course, there are a bunch of just stupid kills that a Market Garden soldier can get where they're just dead to rights. All they have is one rocket, which everyone is healthy enough so that that rocket can't kill anyone, and they just decide to, you know, do some random jump off the wall, go for a salvage spoon, and somehow it works and gets a kill, right? So stuff like that is very stupid. And of course, I think a similar element of... actually, I don't know if a similar element of... what's the word I'm looking for? Of confirmation bias exists for the Market Gardener, because it is, you know, the utility and use of the weapon is completely unique, and it's not like a soldier would be doing something else differently a lot of the time. But yeah, it can get really just stupid, arguably undeserved kills, and for that reason people think it's kind of just broken. Now, of course, I know that a lot of more casual players see the Market Gardener as kind of like the pinnacle of skill, and it's like really hard to get a Market Garden on someone. And to be clear, I don't know if it really is necessarily. There are really good players with it, but just getting a spoon on a distracted player is not that hard with just a bit of practice. So it's not like, you know, hitting some insane air shot or something like that. It's generally not too hard to do. And also, like, in a competitive setting, no one's forcing you to use it. You can only pull it out when you have the freest kill that you're never gonna miss, right? So yeah. But on the topic of there being really skilled players with it, let's talk about kind of metagame progression in general and how it sort of works. Because most of the Market Garden hype and complaints or calls to ban it were ongoing when Jay was playing on Froyotech and was just rolling invite with the Market Gardener. So now of course people have been using the weapon for years, and you know there's different names attached to the thing that have been dedicated to it throughout the years, but Jay really abused it in invite, and a lot of people saw that, and a lot of people kind of latched onto it, tried it more. And you know, there's actually like the meme adage of Jay ruined an entire generation of roamers because after he started using the Market Garden so much, now there's just a bunch of soldiers that are much less skilled than him and much less experienced with the weapon that are just using it nonstop, trying to replicate the same thing, and people don't enjoy playing against that as much, what have you. So I think in general, when it comes to progressing or when meta shifts happen, it happens kind of in stages, right? Because you have people that are just using goofy unlocks or trying whatever strat just whenever. This happened with the lock and load. I mean, this happened with like gunboats as well. You just have people that like would troll or do whatever and just use the weapons that they like using because it's fun or whatever. And in every player I've found has some like pocket unlock as a pick. There's always like every scout main will like to pull out, like there's some Force of Nature scouts that are like, when they're just having fun trying to troll around, do whatever, they'll pull out the Force of Nature. For some it's the shortstop, for some it's the Babyface's blaster even, and it's no different for soldier. You of course have soldiers pulling out the direct hit when they're messing around, stuff like that. So everyone has that kind of pocket unlock they like to mess around with. And you have people that are kind of dedicated to stuff like that who tend to use it pretty often. So it's not uncommon to have seen people going for market gardens, throughout the entire history of competitive. But then it reaches a point where it actually becomes like seriously considered, not just messing around. I really like this thing and I'm like dedicated to it, and more so like actual serious competitors who are trying to win using the weapon for its unique merits that it presents. And that tends to lead into genuine strong players using and abusing the unlock and showing basically the wider metagame how actually strong it is. And for the Market Gardener in North America, that was Jay. I think in Europe, the Market Gardener has been banned and unbanned. I don't know the exact history of its whitelisting in Europe, but I do know that Nubby was one of the major components of it being restricted, and that was like kind of the J of North America as far as bringing its popularity and use into full thrust. But yeah, Market Gardener is a very divisive weapon because on one hand, it is pretty skill-based. You have to actually execute to get a kill with it. It's not as skill-based as a lot of casual players tend to think. Like, yeah, it's really not that hard to get a kill with it, but it's, not trivial. And it has some serious... the risk-reward ratio can be really nice. If you only use it in the situations in which, the risk is pretty low, then it gives you a ton of reward. So as long as you're not just feeding your brains out going for random market gardens that you have no reason to go for, then it can really skew the risk-reward in your favor. Because, of course, you are the only person that chooses when you try to pull it out and use it. And it's not that hard to just choose the moments when it works the best. And again, it can just kind of bail you out sometimes and give you a stupid kill that you didn't really deserve. Although those tend to be like really high skill kills. It's just that salvage one rocket, get a spoon on someone, and trade kind of stuff tends to be where the weapon shines skill-wise. But as far as its actual abuse goes, it's largely just picking off those players that don't see you, rather than wasting your rockets on them, and then you get to preserve your rockets and do whatever with them, because that's just better to have. So yeah, that's kind of where the Market Gardener stands. Right now it's perfectly legal in North America, and I expect it to probably stay that way. It's really not being abused or talked about as much as it has in the past, and it was actually never even banned in the past. But it can be a pretty divisive weapon, and one that gets brought up a lot when it comes to talking about weapon unlocks. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. Not really a history lesson necessarily, but just a talk. And yeah, hopefully if you're using this as a sleep aid, you're sound asleep by now. But yeah, I'll catch you guys next time.